We had the accidental moment when I was left alone when he was unhandcuffed and there was no one viewing my interview. I was completely left alone in that pod with him. I think I leaned in at one point when he was showing me a scar on his hand, and I was way too close. I was 6 inches from him. I was looking down at his hand and I looked up and he's inches from me, like staring in my eyes. I remember thinking, in my flawed thinking, I was thinking, why would somebody want to kill me? I'm nice.
In September 2016, police in Ashland, Ohio get a call from a woman who claims to have been abducted and held hostage by her friend, Sean Great. Officers race to the address the woman reports she's being held at, locating her and her kidnapper. Both the woman and Sean Great are taken down to the station for questioning. At the same time, Detective Kim Major is starting her day.
My name is Kim Major. In 2016, I was a detective for the Ashland Division of Police in Ohio. My typical role at the Ashland Police Division was investigating sex offenses, violent crimes against children. So I spent every day as a detective working those cases. On the morning of the Sean Great case, I had been called in, and I was actually in the shower when I got the call. A couple calls and a text I could hear on my phone. Cut my shower short, stepped out, and called my captain back. It was him who was trying to reach me, and he gruffed at me that I didn't answer my phone. And at the time, I'm thinking, okay, it's like 6 in the morning. I'm getting a shower. Like, I'm not supposed to be at work yet. But he needed me. So he told me he needed me to come to work for the purpose of interviewing a victim who had been held captive, who had been sexually assaulted. I, gathered my stuff and went to work really quickly. When I arrived at the police department that morning, I initially interviewed the victim, the live victim, and she had been rescued and she had been brought to the police department. So I conducted a forensic interview, although from sight, as I sat with her, I realized she needed medical attention. So I had to get what I could get quickly so that I could get her off to a medical facility. So when I walked out of my interview with, we'll call her Jane Doe, out of complete respect to this amazing woman, I was approached by my captain. Sean Great had been brought on station. He was in an interview room. And my captain explained that he had had a conversation with Sean Great, that Great was agitated.
Why was it wanted to hold her?
Okay, you wanted to hold her, but she didn't want to be held. Is that what you're saying?
She wanted to be held.
No, that's not what you just said. You said
But she couldn't let it out. But she wanted it.
You think she wanted it. She's told you she didn't want it. You admitted earlier she said she didn't want to have sex.
She said it's not right.
Okay, but that's telling you she doesn't want to have it, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
It's not right.
But you didn't want to let her go, so you just hold her. When you say hold her, you're hugging her?
Actually, I didn't even do that.
What did you do?
Just sit down.
See, you're kind of all over the board here, dude. I mean, you told me that you held her.
I mean, I never held her and like restrained her.
At some point you did.
Well, at that point, at that first initial.
Okay.
At the very first time. Just stay here, relax. I did joke about abduction and that being abducted.
How do you joke about it?
So I should abduct you, keep you out and please stay with me for a few days.
And then it ended up happening that way.
He asked me if I would go in. He didn't ask me if I would go in. He told me to go in and talk to him. He said that because I had interviewed the victim, that he wanted me to go in and get the details to see if what he was saying would be consistent with what she said, and then to nail down any points that she had made that we were unaware of, which was pretty much the majority of it. I walked down the hall and my captain said, and while you're in there, see if he knows anything about the missing girls. So there had been 2 reports of missing females. I live in a small town in Ohio. In my county and in my city is the county seat, There was a female who was missing, and we didn't know if she had met someone online and left. We didn't know if if she had some suicidal ideation and had was somewhere related to that. We didn't know where she was. I also knew that there was a woman from the next county over, one of the surrounding counties touching our county, who had come to Ashland, and I think she had gone like to a Home Depot to get some gardening supplies, and she was not seen after that. So I knew that. I knew her car had been found in my county or my city, and that we didn't know where she was. These two women were unrelated to each other, different lifestyles, different friend groups. The one was not even from my county. So that's what I knew going in. With Sean Great, I didn't have time really to come up with a game plan. It was literally less than 2 minutes. I didn't even know I was going to be interviewing him.
Sean, this is Detective Kim Major.
Hey, Sean. I'm Kim Major. Nice to meet you.
I'm gonna cuffs off with
We're gonna get these cuffs off you.
Let's see here.
My goal always is to go in and try to create an environment where someone feels comfortable enough with me to tell me maybe the most heinous, intimate, and terrible thing in their whole life. So that becomes primary, and it's taxing and it's exhausting because if someone's not from your community or you're not familiar with them ahead of time, there's no time to do any homework. I don't have a baseline, so I don't know his history. I don't know his background. I don't know his childhood. I don't know if he has a diagnosis. All of those things have to be taken into account. I don't have enough information on him to type his personality, so all of that has to be done when you walk in. And it's really not how that person feels about me. It's how I make them feel about themselves. So, and those are very close. They're enmeshed. But when you go in, it's the first glance is critical. The first words out of my mouth are critical. How I'm poised, where I'm standing, where they're seated, whether they're handcuffed or not. In his case, I had the handcuffs removed immediately because I'm not going to get someone to talk to me when they're in handcuffs. If they're so, not only are they physically cumbersome, but it's also emotionally or mentally binding. So I had to have those handcuffs off of him. People talk with their hands, and they'll actually demonstrate what they did with their hands. So if I have a child abuse case and I ask somebody what they did or what they didn't do, they'll demonstrate what they did with their hands, and it gives me a little bit of an edge. Then I know. In the case of Sean Great, I had the handcuffs removed so that we could have a more open and candid conversation. I assessed him physically right off the bat. You kind of size somebody up to think, okay, he didn't have a shirt on, which is advantageous because I can kind of see is he flexing out on me? Is he, where's this going to go? Because I'm alone in a room. But my initial assessment was I could see that he was looking at me. He was trying to read me to see how I was going to treat him. And I was not certain what had happened in the room prior to me. I could see that. I could see what he was looking for. So generally when you walk in, people anticipate you coming in, doing the dominant handshake. Like there's all these things you see that's on TV. And maybe there are some detectives who handle it that way, and maybe it works in some scenarios, but that's not my approach. So I know what national confession rates are, success in confessions, and I know what works for me in comparison to what might work for someone else or might not work for someone else. So there was that initial assessment, and then I try to take care of some, I'll call them creature comforts, to make sure that somebody isn't under duress when they're talking to me. So are they comfortable? Are they sweating and they're tight? Is it need something to drink? Is it too hot in the room? I addressed all of those things with him pretty quickly, but because of the circumstances, it didn't, momentarily, it was how was he? And he already knew why he was there. It wasn't blind as far as that goes. He knew that. So I could kind of jump past that piece a little bit. Meaning he knew Jane Doe had been rescued and that we were going to talk about Jane Doe. I don't think he knew we were going to talk about the rest of it.
She's hurt kind of all over, isn't she? Tell me what happened.
Once.
You only hit her once?
Yeah, I hit her once and cut me right here with the tooth. I didn't mean that. She flipped out on me, which I understand. And then she started to claw me and stuff.
She was scared, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I just tapped her.
Well, I don't know if it's a tap. Her mouth's hurt, right? But I think sometimes when things get out of control, sometimes stuff happens like that. Right?
Oh, no. Normally it don't get out of control.
I was pleased that he was willing to talk at all. So if someone's willing to talk at all, whether or not they're telling me the truth is secondary to that at that moment. It's just I have someone who's willing to talk. So as we were communicating, I could tell that he wasn't accepting the culpability of what he did, but that I don't need that yet. I need to know what he did. Or is it going to parallel what she says? So I try not to go in and tell someone what a victim said and just have them confirm or deny it. I like to have them tell me what they did, and then I can compare the two and look for inconsistencies and then kind of hone it in a little bit. So for him, he was willing to talk, so I was happy about that. And then I did notice right away the blame. It was excuses and the blame on her, and I knew I had to work towards that. So, but I felt like, okay, he's willing to talk about that, and so it was difficult getting him to acknowledge his piece in that, because he tried to minimize his part. I mean, he did it. It's not like it's a dual culpability. She didn't do anything wrong. So trying to decide at that point, I was trying to decide, I knew he was already agitated with the officer who tried to interview him before. He got angry, but I didn't know what caused that anger. So I was trying to assess that, like what are his triggers? What is going to cause him to shut down with me? I treat every interview as if I may be the last person to ever talk to this person. So it's exhausting because you're afraid you're gonna say the wrong thing and cause someone to shut down, and then we're not gonna have the truth. So, wow, I didn't know what his was, but I knew he could become agitated, and he had. So I was trying to be delicate, but yet, if you let someone lie repeatedly, then they just stick their feet in and lie to everything. So you have to try to decide when is the appropriate time to call someone on one of those. Some officers will call them on the very first lie, and depending on what I'm interviewing somebody about, occasionally I will do that. But with someone who's already shut down on someone, I had to be a little bit more delicate.
I think.
I did smack her, like a few little taps.
But you do understand with your strength that a little tap to you on somebody like that is going to cause some marks.
Things like that, but this was actually when she just started going crazy first, and I didn't know what to do.
So you thought if I hit her, she'll snap out of it and submit?
She didn't still submit.
She didn't? She still tried to fight?
She stopped. When I hit her. She stopped.
Yeah, it's under. Did her mouth bleed?
Yeah, I split her with the tooth, must have been.
Yeah. She said that when you were trying to put yourself in her, that you were having a hard time getting that in her. Is that the way you recall it as well? When you were trying to have sex with her, do you recall it being difficult to...
Yeah. Or a hard time getting off.
Do you always have a hard time?
No, it's probably over too excited or too crazy at the time. I don't know. It's new.
That was a new thing for you? Okay. Well, do you think it could be how many times you had sex with her? Like, it looks like there's a lot of different times. You think, I mean, maybe that played a part. What do you think? She said there were times when you would promise to let her go, and then you would say, no, I can't. When you would say...
I kept asking.
To go?
Yeah.
When you would say she couldn't, that no, you can't, was that because you were afraid of what was going to happen, you need to come up with a plan, or was it because you thought, I want to do it one more time?
Time was just going too fast.
Meaning you wanted to just keep her there and do it another time? Meaning have sex with her again?
Just spending time with her that I wouldn't be able to spend time with her for a long time. And that she was saying all kinds of nice things, you know what I mean? And for me to realize that it's true or not, she would quit asking me to, you know, she would be okay by being there at least a little bit. But she kept asking me, where to take me home?
When I felt like I had the majority of the elements related to the case with Jane Doe, I decided that I would bring up the topic of Elizabeth Griffith, the woman from my community who was missing. And I didn't go right into it asking him if he had harmed her. I came in lightly, kind of a soft landing on that, trying to decide how much knowledge he had about her. And I was looking for any even nuanced, you know, neurolinguistics or body language, something that would indicate that there was something nefarious related to her. I didn't have that initially, surprisingly. He acted like he knew her, he'd met her, and he didn't say anything to indicate that there was anything negative. So I pushed a little further, and he acted shocked, like, you're acting like something's wrong with her. Is something wrong with her? He would make comments like that. And I was sitting there thinking that maybe he had nothing to do with anything. And it's almost embarrassing as a detective when you're questioning somebody about something you don't know they did it, but you're acting like they did do it, and they're looking at you like, because sometimes you're wrong, and they're like, what are you talking about? So that's where that ego piece is. You have to just check your ego, because success comes through pushing past awkward moments. I find that in my entire career. You push past the awkward, and on the other side of that, you're going to find victory. So that's what I do. And did I always do that? No. I think sometimes when you're interviewing, you feel like you're on the outside looking in at yourself. You can almost hear yourself talking, and it's almost like you're having a conversation with yourself from the outside. It's pretty interesting. Not to mention there are people watching your interviews sometimes, so you know they're watching you, and you feel like you're missing the mark. So with Sean Great, I broached the topic of Elizabeth Griffith. Initially, there was nothing. For the longest time, he denied anything with her. Actually, he just acted like he had met her and wondered where she was, and if I knew something he didn't know, and that went on for quite some time. His manipulative side sometimes was so nuanced that I wouldn't catch it until I would reflect after an interview, and that happened repeatedly. But I decided I wouldn't relent. We just kept going. At some point, I kept pushing related to Elizabeth Griffith, and he did not confess to her. I felt like it was an inordinate amount of time that I was talking to him about her, where he said nothing. And then he made a comment about, maybe, I don't know about her, but maybe there's others. And my response to him was, how many are there? And he said, I don't know, maybe some, maybe none. And I'm thinking, he's toying with me. I didn't know if he's willing to toy with me like that. How close am I to causing him to shut down. But yet, how long can you let that continue? When I'm interviewing somebody and I can tell they're not ready to talk about something, I have to make the conscious decision of, do I push for that information or do I talk about something else? Because it's not going to come out till they're ready. Sometimes, maybe in a case like this, where somebody's harbored something for more than a decade, some of it, they're not ready to say it. So just because my timing would like to be, methodical and have it come out like it's in an outline, maybe I would like that, maybe be clean for a case. That's not how someone's mind works. So if I'm questioning somebody about something and there's multiple victims and I'm talking about one victim, maybe the way they want to present that emotionally, or the way they have it stored in their mind, they may want to talk about the first victim first. They may want to talk about the last victim first, or they may want to talk about the one that hit them emotionally, that one first. So they have it in their mind, the way they recount it may not parallel with how I want it. And when you don't even know what they did, you have to navigate that. So if I feel like somebody's not ready, and in his case, he wasn't ready to talk to me about Elizabeth. So if I push him when he's not ready, I will have him take a hard line, and then that'll become the canned answer. So you have to hop off of that. And it also tells me if I haven't talked to him enough that I understand what matters to him, what is his fear, what is the reason somebody won't confess. So if you can take some of those fears away, because I truly feel if it's in there, if they did it, you can get it. I walk into every interview feeling like if they did it, it can come out. It's on me to make that happen. So there were times in my interview, especially initially, not just initially, throughout the interview process with Sean Gray, that I would have to redirect our conversation to something that mattered to him. Even if I didn't know what mattered, I would have to find it. And with him, his relationship with his family mattered to him, or lack thereof. That was something that was concerning. So that became a topic he was willing to talk about, and would assist in bringing him to a place where he would feel comfortable to open up about other things. Eventually, it was successful. When the confession related to the first victim came out, I wasn't even asking about her. I was asking about Elizabeth Griffith, and Sean Gray acted like he knew nothing about her, but eventually he was willing to tell me about someone else. And he started to talk about a particular victim, Candace Cunningham.
When you said it was an accident, you guys got into it, and then how did you do it? Like,
She kept attacking me.
okay.
Told her to keep trying to hit me. And choked me out once. So I did. I stopped, right? And then when I stopped, I thought she was going to be able, like, that was before she went limp.
Okay.
She was still, like, trying to fight, like, calm down. So I stopped her, right? See if she'll calm down if I stop. She didn't. She still attacked me, right? Yeah, jeez. So I just choked her. She went. She woke up, though. Went crazy again. Had enough.
Right.
She would try to commit. She has a bad record of her. She would try to commit suicide, like,
So if you,
5 times.
what happened then after you choked her the last time? Like, how did you end it? You just choked her again and it ended it, or how?
Life, right there, or whatever.
I knew he was bringing out a crime that didn't even occur in my county. So jurisdictionally, I don't have any jurisdiction over that crime. It's not even in my, and we have 88 counties in Ohio, and that's not in my county. So I'm not the law enforcement agency that would handle that. But I have the person in front of me who's saying it. So I'm sitting in a room and he's talking about what he did to a woman. And that was pretty big for me, because you have that decision when someone is sitting in front of you ready to confess to something that's not your crime. I don't know if she's even missing. I don't know if he's making this up. I don't know if someone else has, investigation, and I'm interviewing somebody about their case. So you have that territorial piece that comes out. That was big for me, because my style, my personality type is, my style is, if someone's willing to confess something to me, I don't care where you did it. I'm going to talk to you. If you're talking to me, I'm not shutting you down, because you certainly run the risk of that person changing their mind, especially if they've waited for so long and never told anyone, and they chose you. They chose you. And then you shut them down. Oh, that's not good. And a lot of agencies do that. Some of them have that as a policy, that if it's not our crime, you shut them down, you tell them to hold on, you go get somebody from that agency, and you bring them. Well, that can be hours. We don't have hours. I feel, even if the victim's deceased, we don't have hours. This is right now, justice for that person. So that was a huge moment for me. As he's confessing to things, I don't know definitively that these are even true, or if he's just making this up because it's humorous. I didn't know definitively that it was true, but I was gonna treat the whole thing the way I did and just let him talk, and I would push for more.
We're gonna go find Candace, right? And
Go from there.
who else are we gonna go find? Hey, remember I told you I'm not going to judge you? I meant it. You're open and honest, and I way appreciate it. Who else can we go look for?
I guess I'm ready to go ahead and get my lethal injection. But I'll tell you everything first.
Okay.
Later on, when it came to me trying to talk him into telling me about Elizabeth Griffith, he just didn't want to say it. And I recall paralleling how he had talked about his childhood with his mother and how he felt abandoned. I paralleled that with her mother. I could tell that resonated with him, because he asked a question about her mom, about what she was like. I talked about how she wanted her daughter, and I made a comment that, and she doesn't think she's okay either. In other words, if you killed this woman, we already know that. She just wants her body. Through that, I had asked him, will you help me? Will you help me? And he flashed his eyes towards me, and I recall making eye contact with him, and I knew, like, he locked eyes with me, and it was odd, because I could see he wanted to talk to me. He was just getting him to do it. So he began to open up. So that was another larger moment.
So with Elizabeth, you wanted to free her. How did you do that? Same way with Candace, or another way?
Well, the same way.
Same way? Okay, is she in anything, or just in the closet?
Closet.
I mean, did you put her in anything?
Clothes.
A bunch of clothes?
Flies.
Flies?
Are in there. Flies. Crazy.
You mean the house that you're staying in right now? All right. Which closet? What room?
Stairs. One beside the bathroom.
There were so many interviews and so many hours with him that there's a lot of times when I would feel like, okay, this is going another direction, or okay, there may be another one, or what did I miss? What did I miss here? What did I miss there? So you can hear in the interviews where he's talking about sometimes 3 different victims in one small conversation because he's comparing what he did to each. And just to confirm those things, I would have to just keep repeating it and getting a little bit more and a little bit more. And it was really notable that there's some things he just did not want to talk about to me specifically. As a matter of fact, I asked him at one point when he didn't want to talk about something. I said, is that something you don't want to talk about, like with me specifically? He said, yes. And I'm thinking, okay. So I said, well, can I get somebody else you're willing to tell this to? And he said, no, I don't want to talk to anybody else. So I have someone who doesn't want to tell me things, but won't talk to anyone else. So it made that tough. So I still wonder, like, what was that he didn't want me to know? During the interview process, because there were 8 interviews, my total hours with him were about 33. There were multiple times where I would have to change my approach. And I'm pretty consistent. I knew going in after the first hour, I was well aware that if you accuse him of lying, he shuts down. Or if he thinks you are lying, he shuts down. And it could be even if he perceived that you were lying. Same thing happened with some of these victims. It's how he perceived it, and he was wrong. He was wrong. So I would have to change my approach. If I was pressing for information and I couldn't get it, it wouldn't work just that I'm talking to him candidly and openly and presenting myself with empathy. There are times when you have to push harder than that, and I did. I truly did. I found that Sean Great did not want to say that he had. He wanted to lower his culpability related to what he did to Stacey Stanley, and I pressed to get him to tell the truth about what he did to her, because he was blaming her. And it didn't occur in the first interview, or I don't think the second interview. It took me several attempts to get him to openly talk about how she did nothing wrong, because she didn't do anything wrong. But I would have to change my approach with him and question him. And as I don't want to call it a relationship, but when you spend so much time talking about something so intimate with someone, there's a trust there. I was more and more able to question him as if I don't believe him as time progressed in the interview. If I would have done that on the first day, 3 hours in, we wouldn't have justice for these victims. As the hours and days progressed, I was able to be more confrontational, not like on TV, but I was able to say that is not true, that does not make sense, you know it. Or I was able to say something like, she didn't want that, and you know she didn't want that. Like, I could say it more pointedly than I could initially, and that proved to be helpful and successful as well, because you can't interview somebody the same way and get the same answer every time and come back with it in the same exact way. It doesn't work. You have to find a weakness and then come from a different angle. Sean Great had a variety of what I'll call weaknesses. He often talked about his relationship with his mom, being abandoned, not being supported, being frustrated that he was up against it, but yet other people could get help that he couldn't get because he was seemingly able-bodied. He feared whether he would go to hell or not. His faith was an issue. He questioned me even during a fire drill. I think we had to go outside, and in the hallway he questioned, because I think I said, oh my, about something, or oh my word. And he said, are you trying to not say, oh my God? I said, yeah. And he's like, is it any different? Is it any better? I remember thinking, you're killing people. And I'm getting called out because I said, oh my word, instead, So We had a lot of, a lot of things like that, or you're almost having a conversation outside yourself, like, is this happening? He wanted to be considered to be stand up or be a man, and so there's a little bit of a bravado issue there. I think at times he was humiliated or embarrassed about some of the things he did, because you can commit crimes like this, but it doesn't mean you're always feeling that. You can have a hunger to kill. Those are his words, not mine. You can have a hunger to kill, but it doesn't mean you always have it. For him, yes, it goes back many, many, many years, but there are times when you don't feel like that. So sometimes when you do things, you look back at it and you feel like it's not even you. In his case, he did so much for so many years and felt so much. It was a little bit more difficult. So if I'm interviewing somebody who maybe has 2 victims in a 20-year period, then it's easier for them to look at it and feel like, well, that's not me. I didn't, it's harder for someone like Sean Great, who has victimized so many people for so many years. It's harder to separate yourself from that. But yet, sometimes he doesn't feel that way. He actually commented to me, he's like, it's not like every time I'm around somebody, I'm going to feel like I'm going to want to kill them. I mean, and what an odd conversation to have with somebody. Like, what an odd job that someone says that to you and it's real. Sean Great begged me to tell him what his motive was. Why did I do what I did? Why do you think I did this? I've been talking to you. If you don't know why you did it, let's not worry about that. Let's just talk about you. And I would try to get more information, because once people start talking to him and say, did you do this because this happened to you, or did you do this? Now, when you talk to him, that's his answer. And that's not his answer. That's what was fed to him, or what he thinks would maybe cause him to be viewed in a better light. So it was important to me to get that unadulterated information before they got to him. I felt the pressure of that. For sure, I felt the pressure of that. Detective Evans and I decided to go into a room where Sean Great was waiting for us to talk to me. We decided that we were going to approach him about a video on a phone that had an older woman on there. We could see he was with her. We didn't know who she was. We also wanted to address how he had strangled one of the victims, whether it was a carotid artery or whether it was a hyoid. We wanted to see how the arms were positioned. So we went in, and Detective Evans had mentioned to Sean Great that, maybe we could use a doll and you could show us. And Sean Great tells Brian Evans how I could do it on you. And Brian agreed to it. And I was sitting there thinking, we're not armed. We're in a room in the jail. You've got to be kidding me. And I know how it can take just seconds during strangulation for someone to lose consciousness. And Brian is a tough guy, but not when you've got a tough guy lashed around your neck. So I looked at Brian like, what are you doing? And I decided at that moment, I'm going to ask him if he would like to do that to me instead, because I wanted to see, is he angry with Brian? What's going on here? Is he wanting to do that to him? So I said, would you want to try that on me, or do you want to do it on Brian? And he said that he wanted to do it to Brian, that he didn't want to do it to me. So I'm like, okay. So I videoed it, and I was shaking. I know I was shaking because I could see my video moving a little bit, but I remember at the time thinking, okay, I have the ability to know this is not the greatest thing, but we really need to nail this down. Okay, this is Detective Major. We have Detective Evans in the room, Sean Great in the room. It's September 15, 2016, time 17:04. Sean's going to demonstrate the way he uses in strangulation in cases that we have been discussing.
Well, Elizabeth, right? It was kind of shocking, right? I was just joking. We were just joking, like how she wished she kind of would die. You know what I mean? It was like, so I'll help you. I'll just go like this. You know what I mean? Like
pushing forward and up at the same time.
Right. And she kind of just like whacked my hands and like started flipping out and stuff like that, to the point where I had to just like grab her and I just would lean forward and just press. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So I was looking around the room thinking, what am I going to use if this goes south? What am I going to do? And when he latched a hold of Brian's looking at me, and I could see his face kind of get red. And eventually, Sean Great lets go of Brian. Wow, Brian mouths to me, I'll never effing do that again. And I'm looking at him thinking, I can't imagine that we're going to be in a situation where we need to do this again. But afterwards, Brian's throat and neck hurt for a couple days. He had latched a hold of him, and we'd come out of the room, and when the interview was over, and he actually confessed to another victim in that room. After that, Brian and I just jumped him. I was like, what are you doing? You let your ego get in the way. And he said, I had my hand in there. And I said, your hand was not in the chokehold. Your hand was in your pocket. And he's like, no, it wasn't. We were arguing outside the jail, which was kind of funny. And I said, it's on video. It's not like I'm not going to be able to show you that your hand was in your pocket. And it was in his pocket. And then we did get questioned. I think our chief said something to the effect of, what in the hell were you two thinking, or something like that. And we were so happy that we got another confession that day. At the time, because I was seemingly successful each time, I had energy. It never stopped. Like I had tons of energy. And my other caseload still was going. Like I had other interviews around these that I was conducting on my other cases. The toll, because there were successes along the way, it didn't wear on me the way you would think it would. That's how I view all of my cases. It's why I'm pretty relentless with them, because if I am unsuccessful in a case, and success doesn't always mean that someone confessed, because success can mean you got to the bottom of it and it wasn't true. If I'm not successful, those are the ones that get me. It's these successes where I feel like I'm good. And I think with this one, I recognize that although I felt like I was fine, even hearing my heartbeat during the case, because I did have a recorder down my top as a secondary recorder, which became the primary when our video went down. Even on my audio, my heartbeat can be picked up. And sometimes when I know what part of the interview, you can hear it if you listen to the interview, the content of what is being said between us is not like a critical moment, but the nuances of that I'm about to get him to say something, it's like my body knows that before I have the thought process, and my heartbeat shows that. It's profound.
How did that end up happening?
Well, she just got lippy.
She got lippy with you?
Yeah, I just like, I'm just gonna take it. I ain't gonna pay you. He's like, no, you're not. You know what I mean?
So she's a prostitute?
Yeah.
So
you can't be a crack whore. You know what I mean? Arguing like, yeah, you can't. So no. So I just went along with it. I did not hurt her at all. I didn't smack her or anything.
You didn't hurt her. You just raped her, like vaginal intercourse.
Yeah, she just submitted. She didn't fight. And that's a lot of reason why she probably just left. You know what I mean? I even walked her back to where I picked her up.
And didn't pay her?
Right.
How long ago? 2 years, you said?
That happened before. No, that happened after. That happened about, I don't know. That happened pretty close to the same time as Rebecca.
For the most of the interview process that Sean Gray enjoyed telling me what he did, because some of it was really difficult for him to say. But there were times during the interview when I would get extra detail from him. Like he freestyled when I didn't ask that, but he gave a little bit more, and it would be something, maybe what women's tongues usually do when you strangle them, or like that's not something I thought to ask. Or he did seem to have some infatuation with the decomposition of bodies. And I said that too lightly. He absolutely has an infatuation with that. It's not, I'm wondering or thinking he does. He does.
Did you write any narrative or?
No, I didn't. I just wrote the date.
You just wrote the date down?
Would be Elizabeth. The oldest one would be Elizabeth. And the newer date would be Stacy.
Are there other dates on there or just those dates?
Just them two.
Why did you write those?
So I would know. I could have reference.
Reference to?
How long their bodies are in there, been in there, kind of like to know, well, because I was kind of paying attention with the odor,
Yeah.
the smells, and I mean, my clothes were starting to absorb smell.
When it comes to my safety during the interviews, I get a little bit tunnel visioned. I'm kind of known for that. I also interview people on their couch or in a car, under a tree. I always feel like there's a little risk with it. So wherever you are, I will make it happen right there. Safety wise, there were a couple times during the interview where I wondered what he was thinking. I think I leaned in at one point when he was showing me a scar on his hand, and I was way too close. I was 6 inches from him because we were already close during the interview. But when I was looking down at his hand and I looked up and he's inches from me, like staring in my eyes, and I didn't know. I'm like, what is this? Like, what was that? And I didn't have time to have a full thought process around it because I was in my zone to do my interview.
Police get word that Great has turned his attention to Detective Major as his potential next victim.
After being told that he had thoughts of killing me, I remember thinking, in my flawed thinking, I was thinking, why would somebody want to kill me? I'm nice. Like, it was just like, what? What are you talking about? And I didn't necessarily feel fear. That's why those fleeting thoughts that there could be something dangerous. I can't say that I changed anything I did. I mean, we had the accidental moment when I was left alone when he was unhandcuffed and there was no one viewing my interview. I was completely left alone in that pod with him. And I didn't know that when I was talking to him. I think if I had known that, maybe it might have been scared, but I didn't know what I didn't know until we go out for a cigarette, and I realize I'm alone with him and there's nobody here and he's not handcuffed. So, I mean, we're not in a locked area even. So that at the moment, that's probably the only moment where I thought, oh my gosh, because I'm looking at him and he's looking at me and he's trying to assess what is happening here, and we were alone. My supervisor asked me to never tell anyone that I was left alone with him accidentally, unhandcuffed. He told me that how we would look negative if that happened, and I told him, I'm like, I don't think it's a negative for people to know. We have to learn from stuff like that. That's one of those things where we can't get tunnel vision. We have to make sure that's taken care of. He was fearful that, my husband would get mad or whatever, and that it would make us look bad. But I'm like, you know what? There's a lot that makes us look good. It's okay. We don't get it all right. We have to learn from these things. There was a fear that he was going to hurt me. I think after a threat, an alleged threat he made against me to an inmate occurred. Soon after that, the interviews stopped, and I regret that I didn't get to interview him anymore because I wasn't done. So I do regret that. I am probably most proud of getting pretty much full detail related to each of the victims that he talked about and giving them a voice. I'm proud that the culpability is on him and that even the ones he was really hesitant to accept that it was his fault, I'm proud that he accepted, in the interview at least, he acknowledged that they didn't do anything wrong. For their sake of their families, that mattered to me. And that was really difficult to get, but I'm proud of that piece.
Sean Great pleads guilty to 3 counts of murder, as well as 2 counts of aggravated murder. He is sentenced to death. Detective Major writes a book about her work on the case titled A Hunger to Kill, a Serial Killer, a Determined Detective, and the Quest for a Confession that Changed a Small Town Forever.
My book is Hunger to Kill. The book takes kind of my life from childhood as well as Sean Great's life, and you can kind of see where we collide. And then there's a lot of related to the psychology of the interview, and maybe some of the things that I don't read in other books or that I haven't seen. It's from the vantage point of a detective, and I try to be as candid, authentic where I could be authentic, and give some of myself for people to know I'm not an anomaly. There's a lot of people like me out there, but this was our story.
Today, Sean Great remains on death row and continues to appeal his case. Detective Major is now the Safety Services Director at Ashland University. Her work on the Great case has led her to be called the real-life Clarice Starling.